upgrade to a 3-bedroom apartment. But my mom always had a goal to buy a house one day, and she did accomplish that goal. She purchased the house, and a few years later, after buying that house, the house went for $100,000 in value. That was our family lesson of real estate and building wealth. All was accidental, wasn't intentional, but it's just what happened. Those things opened my eyes to real estate. But during my journey, coming from poverty and growing up with all that abuse and violence in my home, I grew up angry. I remember being in school in 8th grade, just walking down a hallway, and for some reason I had an urge to just punch somebody in the face, and I did. And I got suspended, and I was just angry, and going through high school, I was angry. I played basketball as my outlet, but as things didn't go right with my grades or acting out or following the wrong crowds, I would end up dropping out of high school at 16 years old. Dropped out of high school, moved away from home, was living with a friend, living on the street, bounced from house to house to house, and was really poor. Like not even like 4 wings and fried rice poor. I was poor, couldn't even get anything and trying to figure out meals. So after that summer, I would then go back home. I would then go back to school to an alternative program, to a summer program, get extra credits. I did graduate high school one time after dropping out. But in the process of me leaving home, I'd already started selling drugs at 15, 16 years old. Started with weed, started selling coke, started selling crack from my older cousins, and was selling drugs my whole life to that point for the next 10 years. And so by the end of my senior year, I developed a pretty lucrative drug trafficking ring from Somerville, New Jersey to Harlem, New York, to Baltimore, Maryland. And then, 3 months after I graduated high school, about a month after I graduated high school, my biological father, who I hadn't seen since I was 9 years old, visited my town, and he was addicted to crack. So I hadn't seen him since I was 9 years old, right? So he left when I was 3 months. He came back and visited when I was 7. He came back again when I was 9. Didn't see him since. And the next interaction that we had was when I was 17, and he was coming to town, and he wanted to get some work, some drugs, and I would serve him through a transaction that was hooked up by a mutual customer. So that was my first interaction with my dad in 10 years. And me being the hustler that I was, when my dad came back to me and said, "Son, what you gave me in Jersey, it goes for double in Nebraska." I then was set on a plane to Lincoln, Nebraska, from Newark, New Jersey, with 2 ounces of coke in my side pocket. In my first week of I never spent a week with my dad in my life. The first week I ever spent with my biological father was at his house in Lincoln, Nebraska, where he showed me how to cook up coke to crack on the stove in a microwave, and where I sold to him and all his friends over a whole week. That was my interaction. And so a few months later, I went back to Nebraska again on a train. This time I smartened up. I like the plane thing, it's not scary. Went back on another train. And so my third trip back to Nebraska, I went to New York to pick up a quarter kilo of coke, 255 grams. I had a loaded .38 handgun on me because I was hustling in Baltimore, and Baltimore was wild, like it's now. It was wild back in '98. And so I got locked up in New York where the cops illegally searched my vehicle for a quarter kilo of coke and a loaded handgun. And I just turned 18 years old 4 days prior. It was my first adult arrest. And the first time I seen a prosecutor, their first offer to me was 3 years to life in prison. It was my first offer. While I was sitting on Rikers Island, C-74 in Mod 3 up. So, all these experiences anyway, and I went through years more, right? I want to kind of fast forward my story, it would be here forever if I told my whole story. But I went through years more, right, of selling drugs, going back to jail, did 2.5 years in prison, had 3 felonies, 3 different states, still sold drugs after that. Jail didn't wake me up, almost being shot didn't wake me up. But me standing on a block in Newark, New Jersey one day and challenging myself to see what I wanted to do with my life and what was I able to do with my life outside of just selling drugs, and challenge myself to see if I was really a hustler or just a drug dealer, because a drug dealer can only sell drugs, a hustler can sell anything. And so I challenged myself one day in Newark, New Jersey, on 10th and Springfield, and I walked away from the drug brand completely and got full steam ahead into real estate. And so that was my transition to real estate, where I had a lot of success. In my first 2.5, 3 years of real estate, made my first $1 million, became a multi-millionaire, got national notoriety, success because of my transformation story, right, from this life of crime and drug dealing, now into a young real estate figure and on millions of dollars in properties and wholesale real estate and built houses, and then I wrote a book and got picked up on NBC on a show called Open House NYC as a celebrity realtor. So I was a mortgage banker, I was an investor, and I was a licensed real estate agent as well, which came to name Mr. Real Estate. I was doing everything in real estate you could do. And so through that platform, I would also get on the Today Show as a real estate expert on NBC's Today Show. Did 2 live segments with 20 million viewers. Would be hired by Sotheby's International Realty as the first African-American realtor. Sotheby's is the biggest luxury real estate company in the world. Would bring in my office's biggest listing at $9.7 million as a celebrity realtor, and had clients from Angela Yee from The Breakfast Club to Melissa Ford to Deshaun Jackson, Andre Iguodala, right? And all these different types of celebrity clients. I would either consult with them or their firms to help them, so that's a celebrity real estate advisor. And built this pretty huge brand for myself coming out of a space as a welfare kid, high school dropout, 3-time felon, ex-con that now has this real estate brand and business. And then I left Sotheby's because of a video I did called Wake Up in the back of a Maybach in New York City. I said, Wake up! To the black community, to the urban community, saying, hey, pull our damn pants up, fix our language, fix our image, let's do better for ourselves. And the owner of Sotheby's saw the video and emailed me and said, I see a video where you're being a spokesman for the black community, and although you're comfortable with that, I am not. And so I had a choice. And me being the man that I am and built how I'm built, I said, peace, deuces. And I went to start my own company, my own brand, started my own school, the J. Morrison Academy, because my whole goal and vision and everything I do is to bridge the wealth gap. Because I know where I come from. And I understand how far we can go because of where I went. So that's our program, our nonprofit we have is Young Minds Can. It's called Young Minds Can because I believe young minds can do anything. I believe young minds can make $20,000 at 20 years old. I believe young minds can transform their lives even after felonies in the prison, after hustling, after dope with their guns. I believe young minds can do anything when they put their mind to it. Old minds too. We all have the opportunity to transform and be whoever we want to be, but it only can be done to the max level with a certain level of intensity, a certain level of commitment. So